Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. We are so excited to have Chuck Wendig and Josh Malerman with us. They'll be discussing Josh's upcoming book, Mallory, the sequel to Bird Box, and Chuck will be discussing his best-selling book, The Wanderers. No, just Wanderers, The Wanderers. We'll start over. Chuck Wendig is the New York Times bestselling author of Star Wars Aftermath, as well as the Miriam Black thrillers, Atlanta Burns books, Zeros and Evasive, alongside other works across comics, games, film, and more. He was a finalist for the John W. Campbell Award for Best New Writer and an alum of the Sundance Screenwriters Lab. He also served as the co-writer of the Emmy-nominated digital narrative Collapsist. He is also known for his popular blog, Terrible Minds. Josh Malerman is a New York Times bestselling author and one of two singer-songwriters for the rock band The High Strung. His debut novel, Bird Box, is the inspiration for the hit Netflix film of the same name. His other novels include Unbury Carol and Inspection. Malerman lives in Michigan with his fiancee, the artist-musician Allison, is it Laco? Laco?
Laco.
Laco,
Yeah.
okay. And and just so everybody knows, they're going to be speaking for about 40 minutes, and we're going to take question and answers through the chat box on the side of your screen and the ask a question box at the bottom of your screen. If you're interested in purchasing their books or pre-ordering Mallory, you can click the Buy the Books Here button on screen. Without further ado, here's Chuck and Josh.
Hi, Josh. What's going on?
Hey, man. The space you're in. So this is a writing shed or a writing office that you made yourself or had made. Did you play a part in actually building it?
No, God, no. I'm a writer, so that's just the thing I do. I don't. These things are soft, pliable hands. Yeah. So how about you? You're rocking just in an office in the house, or?
Yeah, and this is the first house I've ever bought in my life. So. Although this angle would look exactly like any office I've had or any extra bedroom I've had for the last however many years, but this one with the space you can't see is a little bit bigger than normal, filled with more of the same. But the reason I asked is because my girl Allison is like, she's outside like building, adding onto the deck right now.
Yeah.
She is raising ducks right now, a million things. And I was like, I wonder if Chuck's like that too. Is he like?
That's my wife. My wife is she's the one who's like, I cook dinner and I write the books and she fixes shit. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's nice, right?
Yeah, we have a good trade-off.
But then Allison's also in a lot better shape than me. And so then I'm like, wait a minute, maybe you should sit down for 8 hours a day and I'll fix things.
Yeah, we'll flip it, right? Let's get it done. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Do you mind if I would love to just start talking about Wanderers? If you,
all right. Yeah, let's do it.
So buddy read this with my friend James, and so everyone knows Chuck and I have a mutual editor named Trisha, who I was writing constantly every 100 pages or so about what I thought about it. And to me, Wanderers is an absolute classic. I think that I know years from now people are going to be talking about it. People are going to be, I think, studying it. And I hope somebody digs up this video when that happens. And Malerman was right. But it's not even a stretch to say this. And one of the reasons I think so is that, to me, Wanderers is the most high definition snapshot that I've seen of this era, of this time. And I guess I kind of mean from 16 to now, somewhere in this really bizarre sort of moment in time. And of course, that means including things like the environment and a pandemic and diversity and all the characters and the characters that Black Swan is interested in and all this. And I wanted to know if you're still with me, because now I don't see you. Are you there?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
You can hear me. Okay.
Yep. So I wanted to know, because there's so many elements that to me that I can't explain it. It's just so modern in the right way to me. There doesn't feel like there's any like pandering. It's just, this is the modern setting. This is the modern mind. This is a modern philosophy, meaning you. And I just was wondering, to start off with, like, how aware were you while you were writing it, that maybe that's what was happening, that you were taking a snapshot of today or not?
Well, first of all, you can still hear me, right? Because I don't know if you can see me. Okay, good. All right. I don't know what I was aware as I was writing it. It's one of those books that the idea, the core mechanism of it, the sleepwalkers who would walk to an unknown destination for an unknown reason, that lived with me for like 3-4 years. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, and I learned from that really specifically that for writers, ideas are garbage. Like it's not that they're bad, but we give them such like high prominence in our lives and our sort of writer mythology that I've learned that they're not jewels, they're not gems, they're really like costume jewelry. It's all about kind of how you wear it. And I needed a story. I needed characters. I needed something to go with it. And then in the build up to like 2016, like all of my anxieties over like post-antibiotic age and climate change, political shenanigans and division, white supremacy, everything formed like this, like a Napoleon dessert of anxieties. And it just made sense. Suddenly the story of Wanderers kind of unfolded. And from there, it fell out of me. I mean, relatively speaking, it's an 800-page book that is a painful birth. But I mean, it came as painlessly as that kind of book can come.
I was with Trisha, again, everyone, that's our mutual editor. She edited both Wanderers and Mallory. I was with her in New York. I don't remember exactly why, but I remember her saying to me something to the effect of Chuck had just added 100,000 words to the book that he's working on. And I was like drinking, and I'm like, wait, what? Did you say 100,000 like words that she was? Because I didn't know anything about the book yet, right? And then she's like, yeah, like, so then, because it's funny that you said about the costume jewelry, because yeah, if I had the idea of the sleepwalkers, I would like say to my friend, oh, I got the one about the garden hose. I got that idea about a sleepwalking, that I don't know where they're going. And it would just be this tiny, nugget, little, I just like imaged. And now it's an 800-page book. I think some questions are going to be asked by everyone, whether it's writer, interviewer, friend, how long did 800 pages take? Was it just an explosion? Was it years? How long did it take?
It was like, for the first draft, maybe 6 months. But it's funny that you mentioned Trisha, because I was running up on my deadline. I was like a week away from having to turn this thing in. And I was about 180,000 words into it. And I wasn't done. I knew I wasn't done. But I contacted her and I'm like, okay, so listen, I'm going to do like a cool, like, how like a TV show will fast forward and we'll do a time jump and I'll make it work and I will get you this book by deadline. And thankfully she was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. And so, which was great. And she said, just write the book that needs to be written. Like, just keep going and make it as long as it needs to be. And I was like, are you high? Are you okay? That's something an editor would usually say to me. So I was really happy to be allowed kind of the length of runway to take off with that.
And I feel like it, like, what's the right phrase? Like, needed this immersive experience or something, if that makes sense. Like, for the weight of the pandemic to sink in, and not just the arrival of the pandemic, but the weight of I loved how, I don't want to spoil anything, but I loved how the number of sleepwalkers, the number like grew, but gradually. It wasn't like it started at like 2 and then there's 900. Like, I don't know why I kept expecting something like that, but that never happened. It was like there's 30 and then there was like 32 the next time you heard it. And it was this creeping thing where I'm like, oh my God, And so I guess, what is it, like 250,000 words, around there?
I think, yeah.
Chuck, are you still there?
Many, yeah. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Now I can, yeah. Is it
Sorry, breaking up a bit.
How long was it, 250?
280,000, yeah.
Wow, 280, man. If Trisha, if you're listening, I want to write one that's
What's Bird Box?
How long?
Yeah, Bird Box is short. It's tight.
Oh,
it's a tight book.
Like 68.
It's like 300 pages, right?
Yeah. Not well.
Yeah.
Thanks to like a larger font. Yeah.
big margins.
I wanted to show you something. So I'm reading the book, right? And you can still see me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was a real adventure, dude. And again, I was, in contact with Trisha and friends. But at some point, my dog did this to it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And then
good dog.
Also, that includes this. But she didn't get a single freaking word. She didn't, look at this. She didn't, and then even, look, she ate exactly the spots where there aren't any words. And I was like, somehow I took that as like part of the journey. So like the last 200 pages, I was like, this is amazing. And she didn't eat this.
No.
The cover.
Yeah.
Just the hardcover. I was like, yeah, this book is special. I'm having like a weird experience with it.
Yeah, Trish and I decided that the book would be edible, just not the word.
Right.
Yeah, oh, by the way, I see Trisha. Hi, Trish. She's in our chat.
Oh, you can tell who's like around.
I see a chat thing. Yeah. Do you not see that? Yeah.
Now, all I got is you, me, and buy books here. But I mean, that's fine.
Well, that's okay.
Let me ask you another thing. And I almost wish you and I were like at the bar because I have so many questions. I honestly, for me, this is an all-timer book for me. And I just wanted to tell you that, like,
well, thank you.
It's a freaking accomplishment, man, and you should be out of your freaking mind proud of this. And I hope you are.
I'm really happy you're saying that. That touches me.
All right, cool. One of my favorite things about it is how like almost every character has like duality, but in a not in a cliche way. And in the most interesting one to probably take is the mess of a man, Pastor Bird.
Oh yeah, he goes on a journey.
Right. A total journey, man. But so here, and again, if it spoils a little, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but stop me if I am. Here you got a guy who's religious for the right reasons, but kind of ignoring his family. Then religious for the wrong reasons, then paying attention to his family. And then I won't say what goes on from there, but even more of an arc from there. Whereas a reader might expect, if he's religious for the right reasons, he's also doting on his family. No, not really. Dismiss his family. No, not really. And so just him alone. And then Shayna is like wise but young. Benji is our most trusted voice, yet he lied or pushed a narrative prematurely. A disgraced scientist, right? And he's like our most trusted voice. Pete is selfish but insanely charming and warm. You can even argue, this is kind of gross, you can even argue Ozark is all masculine and crazy, but there's that one scene,
Yeah.
And then and then wow, by the way. And then Nessie is brilliant, but for the duration, a giant part of the book, she's a zombie essentially, right? So it's almost like I imagine you with like a character board, and it's not just putting the polar opposite, like Bird's the best example. It's not just the opposite characteristics at once. It's like it's more complex than that. And so is that something you were like hyper aware of while writing? You didn't want it so one-dimensional? How did you see that?
It's not even that I conceive of it as a duality. I just I always try to find out who these people are and dig kind of deeper in the dirt than that surface stuff. And people are messy, and I wanted them all to be messy. I didn't want them to be all heroes and all villains. I mean, outside of maybe Ozark, who's pretty straight down the line. We're dealing with a time of intense political division, and I don't want it to necessarily feel like I'm treating these characters like stereotypes or even archetypes. Like I want them to be richer and deeper and stranger. And it also is rewarding for me as a writer, and hopefully the readers to have that journey and not be able to predict exactly who they are and what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's like, what's his name? The one character who doesn't really change that much is, oddly enough, Bo. Like, of all the characters, he's kind of like the most consistent character in the book, which is a very interesting thing. And it also kind of explains part of the problems that Bird probably had in his arc, because his son was in that spot. But yeah, that was just something that I kept writing with my friend. Like, God, you wouldn't. And Bird, again, maybe it's because religion is such like a fickle thing or something. But what you were saying about not wanting to make archetypes, it's like, to me, there's issues in this book that shouldn't be political, like a pandemic or environment or diversity growing. Like, these things to me, so they've been politicized, but they're not political. They're natural. They're organic. These things are just happening. And so I think that I can see someone, what's the right phrase, reading this book and being like, oh, this is political, or this is liberal, or this or that. And I'm like, there's movies made by like right-leaning dudes and girls that I like. It's like, it's not like there's some like liberal beats a work of art has to hit for me to be like, yep, that's good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, and then so to me, I just love it all. And the issues in this book to me were not political as much as they have been as much as they are natural things that have been politicized.
Right. Which is apparently what's going on outside of our door right now.
Yeah. I'm sure that some other thing that shouldn't be politicized is actually, that's happening in real time right now.
In real time.
Outside this moment.
So, as much as I'm excited to talk about Wanderers, but dude, how the fuck do you do it? You write books that are very different from each other. Obviously Bird Box and now Mallory coming up. These are very different books. What's that like? Because I mean, some authors feel like they're supposed to be boxed, like in a fence, like do this thing again and again, and especially with the success of Bird Box, what's that like? How do you do that?
Well, thanks for saying that, because it's funny. It's not something that I'm necessarily setting out to do, but I am aware of not, you did this already, you did this, that kind of thing. It's not like, now let's do the inverse or opposite. But I've always looked at, or at some point when the rough draft pile started to get a little high, I started to see each book as almost an episode of a TV show that I'm the host of, right? So Bird Box was sort of like The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Unburied Carol was like a Western, mostly. Inspection was like a cold in the middle of the woods. The one I'm working on now is a whole different story. And so with that, I kind of just assumed at some point, like, okay, you're me. I guess I would be like Rod Serling from my own books or something, right? and I'm the umbrella. That means that each of these can be directed by someone different, starring someone different, written by someone different, have a different tone to them, as long as I'm hosting the show or something. Because I think there's a danger in genre hopping, or in intentionally being so different. There's almost a danger. You want people to recognize your voice in everything you do, right? I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I always feel like the goal is to be the genre, like not worry about a genre, but you're it.
Right. Yes, exactly. Well, exactly. But then I think that, yes, that's a great way of putting it. But I do fear that too much, what's the right phrase? Too much focus on that can result in like, and then the next book's crazy. But if you really think about it, and I equate this to like my band or any band, really, you got ballads, you got rock songs, you got this, you got that, and that over time, the different sound, production, and albums, but you still know it's still the same band. Why? Because it's the same group of people making that music.
Yeah.
And I think that no matter what you write, no matter what I write, and here's a medium where there's no hiding. There's no drummer. There's no bass player who has an awesome sound. There's no awesome wardrobe. There's no promotion. Well, there is promotion, but there's no, you know what I'm saying, like a light show while they're reading the book. So I think that there's almost like, there's nowhere to hide. So even if you felt like, now I'm going to write a book in a totally different voice, it's going to sound like you writing in a totally different voice. So
you can't hide. I like that.
Yeah. And so I think once I accepted that, it was like, oh shit, then doors are off, anything goes.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to, it's not a fear of being boxed in or even repeating, you know, although there's some, you know, horror writers you'll read and you're like, oh yeah, this is what he or she does, right? But I don't know. It wasn't as much of a fear of that as it's just fun to stretch.
Yeah.
It's fun to do different things. It's fun to be like plastic, you know?
Does the music inform it in any meaningful way? Like, do you take inspiration from it, or is it just a totally different part of your brain?
You know, for sure, in a couple ways, in a couple of really meaningful ways, it's been wonderful. One is that in our band, the High Strung, our lead guitar player, well, it used to be, we now have a lead guitar player, but our lead guitar player, like our bass player was our lead guitar player. And I played rhythm essentially on guitar with the drummer. So I've always sort of been like part of the rhythm section, right? So writing books, and I was trying to years when we were, and then started succeeding in writing books, meaning actually finishing them. I started to notice also that I was writing to like a beat, that I was writing to what started to feel like an invisible drummer in the room behind me, you know, some shirtless maniac that's like, all right, here we go, we're going again, you know? And I'm almost like, I don't know exactly what he looks like, but I can kind of smell him, and I'm like going and going, and I can feel the beat and this kind of thing. And there's no question to me that that comes from being in a band. The other somewhat like profound thing about being in a band that I've discovered right now is that, so I write a song and I bring it to the boys and they do whatever they want with it. So let's take Bird Box, the book, to the movie. People will like ask, like, were you upset with the adaptation, or did you like the adaptation, or this or that? And to me, it felt the same as if, wait, no, I wrote the song, the book, and I brought it to them, and they played it however they wanted to play it, and I'm just glad it was played at all.
I like that. It's like a cover.
And so, yeah, so I feel like the music is actually played like very warm roles in the book side. The hardest thing, and I don't know if you have like a second go-to like I do, the hardest thing is going from one sphere to another. You know, it's hard to finish writing a book and then stand up and walk over to a piano or a guitar. It's just, you're just in a different like space or something. You know, do you have like another outlet like that, or no?
I do photography.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
now he's silent.
I do, yeah.
Oh, you do?
Just like on the side, kind of my own whatever. I have like a zoom lens, and I go look at some fucking birds, and it's good. Nope. Am I gone?
And so, yeah, it's kind of in and out.
Am I?
I could just start. I could start juggling all the paperbacks on my desk.
It just keeps putting me in and out.
Emergency, Mal, I'm gonna start juggling paperbacks. Yeah.
All right, we good?
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. Yeah. So you're doing a sequel to Bird Box, which is, you wrote essentially a classic fucking horror novel, like one of the big anchor horror novels that people will always be talking about. And fast adaptation, right? So why a sequel?
So there were two things going on. One is that the rough draft of Bird Box was about almost twice as long as what came out, and in order to shrink it to what it was and where it belonged, I had to get rid of a thread that was really exciting to me, but it just added. I like to look at it this way: it diluted the scare. There was no longer just the creatures to be afraid of. There was now this other thread. And I was like, no, I want this to be like a single note story. I just want one hum the whole way through. And this other one just was a second hum, right? So I removed that. And then through the years, I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to do anything with that. But it would like pop up like, man, that's a good thread, dude. You know, like, man, like, you should. And I told, Allison, or I would tell a friend drunk at the bar, like, what used to be in there, And then, and then I'm watching the movie with Allison at the Netflix screening room. It was called The Upside Down, the room we were in, and it was crazy, man. No popcorn or anything. No previews. Just well, there actually was no previews or anything. Just boom, this movie starts. And it's Sandra Bullock and this river, and I was like, oh my god, this is really happening, whatever. And by the end of the movie, and this is gonna sound like cheesy, but it's true. I turned to Allison, I'm like, now what happens to her? And she's like, all right, And I'm like, I'm not seriously, man. I want this was fun. What happens to her now? And then the movie exploded. Absolutely. We like the day we saw it, we thought that was, this is good as it gets, man. We're in the Netflix screening room, and like this movie's coming out, and Sandra Bullock is Mallory, and like literally, I'm not asking for any more than this, right?
You're done. You can stop now.
Done. Let's move on to the next story.
Yeah.
Then the movie exploded. So then it became like, okay, all right, hold on. You got a great idea for another one. You loved she inspired you to think about Mallory more, and this did really well. And I think all three of those were like, okay, let's write it again. But write another one. But here's the thing that's kind of bizarre and almost sad in a way, is that I wrote, and Trisha knows this very well, I wrote an entire version of Mallory with that thread, right? And we got down to the red line edit. We had done all this, the macro, and now we were at the red line edit. And I called Trisha up, and I was like, listen, I think I want to abandon that thread again. Better one.
Nice. You writers.
And she was like, dude, yeah. And to her credit, we had worked on this for like months. Yeah. To her credit, there was no moment from her of, are you sure? Are you hungover? Are you drunk? I mean, dude, we put in a lot of work.
Do you have a brain parasite? Yeah.
Dude, that means that she realized it was wrong. Right. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna start this over, and then abandoned the thread, wrote something else altogether, and felt 1,000 times better about it. So that's a very long answer to that question.
No, and that's reveals the power of a very good editor. And Trisha is that. We're lucky people.
Well, that's a great segue, because I wanted to ask you about with you working with her, because there were some handoffs. By the way, I love. Is it repeat after me or do as I say? That section.
Oh, what section is that?
It's later on, and in like each one, like that was a bad idea.
It was a bad idea. Like, yeah, the repetition at the start of each graph there.
Yeah, but then I noticed, because I just read Beloved, and it was just absolutely changed my life. I read it 2 days ago, and I'm confidently saying it changed my life. That she was like that too, where the further you got into the book, the more she took like almost like poetic liberties or something, and it felt like you were doing that too. Now there's like, like now it's not just mirroring how crazy things were getting. It almost felt like, hey, you're on an 800-page journey. Now Chuck's becoming playful or something. It like started to become more playful. And then I was wondering though, and this is going to sound like the dumbest question.
Not a dumb question.
No, dude. Was this chronological, or how did you and Trisha like juggle this together?
In terms of the actual prose or plot, or
no, the plot. I know. That was kind of like a bunch of things at once. The plot though, like the sequence of events. Was it chronological, or did you do like a thread at a time?
Initially, the initial pitch to Trisha had it as something that would have a staggered timeline. It'd be flashbacks and that kind of fancy bullshit. So, but no, when I actually sat down to write it, I wrote it, and I tend to write start to finish, chapter 1 through 2, 3, 4, 50, 70, 800, whatever, because I'm too stupid to do differently. Like they're big, and I can't do that.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm usually, I had read something where Joe Lansdale, and I tried this with Mallory, where Joe Lansdale was like, he only has like one working draft that he does a chapter, rewrites it, and then halfway through reads up to where he is, continues the thing. And I did that with Mallory, and I did it also with Carpenter's Farm, which I wrote live and did on my website since then, or recently actually. And then that was an amazing experience for me. Is that how you do it normally, or no? Like, how do you?
Yeah,
how do you do
mostly it's
that?
kind of a live living draft. I don't usually save stuff I cut necessarily, and I kind of and Joe Lansdale, he's like my favorite, the best American author working in a lot of ways.
So, in the stack of books that are holding up this phone to give me a better, more flattering angle than if it was on my desk, is The Bottom, which I haven't read yet.
A good one.
Is it awesome?
It's classic.
Yeah. I need to read that one for sure.
I've read it all, down from the Magic Wagon to his Jonah Hex run to all the Hap and Leonard stuff. Yeah.
All right, sweet. I read the first Hap and Leonard, and then I read the driving stuff, and and I read the creepiest, the book of short stories, By Bizarre Hands.
Oh, By Bizarre Hands. That got the Cadillac and the desert and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the ghosts of like stuff.
I need to read. I want to read that again.
Yeah, that dude's the real deal, man. And like, it's funny. I don't know why. Who knows why? But certain people's advice, even on Facebook, or online, like you'll see, and you're like, yeah, that rings true. And I took his editing advice. Like, it's like I use one working draft instead of this like nebulous. I barfed out a rough draft, and no, I hope some of it worked. Yeah. And that's what I've been doing for 20 years. So to try it his way, and I was like, ooh, yeah. I felt like I was driving like this like really nice car by the middle of it.
That's awesome though.
So Wanderers was up for TV?
It's optioned. Yeah. We QC Entertainment, who did Get Out and Black Klansman, they're behind it, and we have some other team members involved, so fingers crossed. Ooh, I can't hear you now. Uh-oh. I can't hear him. Can anyone hear him? Oh, I'm gone. Josh is muted, it says, but I don't even see him now. He's gone.
Yes.
There he is. Can I hear you?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I hear you. All right, we did it.
Because at first I read Wanderers every like 30 pages, because my idea was that I was going to read it every 30 pages until today, so that it would be super fresh in my mind. It didn't go that way. I read 30, and then it went 60, 70. But for a while there, I was reading it episodically, and I was thinking like, I'm kind of reading it like as if this was a TV show.
That's how I wrote it.
Yeah. And it felt like it had individual, I don't want to say individual arcs, like beginning to end. Obviously, the things weren't resolved in every 30 pages, but it had that rhythm to it. I'm like, dude, this is like tailor-made for a TV. This is ready to go.
Yeah, I wanted to feel like almost like 4 or 5 seasons of television, like a big, epic, one and done, massive, like a finished TV show.
yeah, that's good. I'm gonna try that too, and I'm gonna even include like the later seasons that suck. So mine's gonna be like 1,500 pages.
It's like a season 12. It should have been canceled 6 seasons ago.
Right. I want it to be so good that by the point that it should have been canceled, you're like, oh, well, it's still, I'm still gonna finish it.
Yeah, I don't like that main character and it jumped the shark in chapter 492.
Do you, again, some of these questions sound like questions that anybody would ask, and that's okay. I'm anybody. But like, would you ever do something like this size again, you think? Or are you like, dude, I'm gonna, come on, like
I would if it was right.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, like my next book is big, but not that big, and still we cut some quite a bit of fat off it. So, but Wanderers was the size that it was because it needed to be that big, and so every book. Yeah. I've learned that I don't know how to write books. That's like the thing that Wanderers taught me. I don't know how to write books. Every book is its own weird squirrely beast to tame.
Yeah, no doubt, right, man? I know. I feel the same way, but I'm a numbers guy, and my dad's an accountant, and my mom's more artfully minded, and so but sometimes I'll be like I saw someone post online who's like I wrote a book that's 199,000 words, and I'm like, how the f did you not do that one more thousand? I would have lost my marble. I would have just been like, just come on, just describe the sun as it goes down.
Just an epilogue. Write an epilogue.
A little epilogue, something here, man. I gotta cross that 200 line, But seriously. That guy's like, no, the story ended. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right,
fine.
Whatever, dude.
I know. Somebody's not OCD.
Yeah. But come on, 200,000. All right. It sounds like you already gave me the answer to the next one, but my friend asked me to ask you which came first, the actual Wanderers or Black Swan. And the reason that he was asking is that I think that you can easily imagine the entire plot starting to branch off either of those entities. I can, and him and I talked about it back and forth. I know now that you said it was the Wanderers, but he had said that. So how early into the game did Black Swan come in?
Once I kind of had a pretty good idea where the story was going, Black Swan was there at the beginning. Whenever I talk about Wanderers, I always have to say that as a writer, I'm both super lazy and really greedy. I'm lazy because I didn't do a lot of new research for the book, right? It's all just stuff that I kind of had already read and thought was pretty great. Artificial intelligence and epidemiology and obviously all the political division stuff. So, but then I'm also really greedy because I didn't want to do a book per topic. I wanted it all in. It just all I want to put as many snakes into that can as I could fit. So that's it. With Bird Box,
but it never felt crowded, dude.
Oh, good.
Everything. Pete Corley, everyone had their own breathing space, their own breathing room. It never. You know what? It didn't even feel like. You know how a lot of epic stories will have an ensemble cast. I obviously understand that there is, but it didn't feel that way. You stuck with Shayna, her dad, Nessie, Benji for a while before we got to. Oh, Pete didn't even come in till when? 300?
Yeah, I wanted to layer. I didn't want to shotgun blast new characters in everybody's faces. I really wanted it to be a sense of progression, a sense of you're going to get to know these people, but then here's a new character, more people, then here's a new character, and introduce them that way.
Well, that to me as a writer was a lesson for me, that because when we read I don't know, like Under the Dome or something, right? It's it'll be character, and that's great. Whatever, it's an ensemble cast. Yeah. This felt more like the story was getting bigger, and because the story is getting bigger, it now involves more people knowing about the Wanderers, more people knowing about the pandemic, Ozark getting freaked out and enabling Matthew Bird's being not hired, but whatever, enlisted for the radio show. It's all of their roles branched off so organically, dude.
Well, do you know the Brontosaurus theory of game design? In game design, when you're playing a game, you start at the tail, which is thin. It's the narrow end of the wedge, right? You kind of want a narrow experience. And then the bulk of the middle, but what is really 75% of it, is the massive bulk of the beast. So that's where you start to really do a lot of world building and expand out. And then as you get closer to an ending, you're narrowing to the head, and you start to really tighten and ratchet it back up. And that sort of, I think, works for especially epic storytelling, ideally as well.
Well, I've never heard of that before, and now
now you have it for whatever it means.
At the bar tonight, so you hear me go, well, I know I do the Brontosaurus theory. It's pretty much how I write everything, man. I started with the narrow tail, and I work myself up.
You draw it on a napkin, here.
Cheers, buddy. But that totally makes sense, and I think that's also less daunting. I hope my friend James is watching, because he and I buddy read this, and he's a writer and a filmmaker, and he and we both have these grand ideas, but hey, or we both want to have grand ideas. We both want to write like an epic like story or something. So then it's like, hey, but what, you can start small and get there. And I feel like Wanderers is probably the best example I've seen of that in like epic I've read. Yeah.
Well, so
yeah, bravo.
Let's talk Bird Box again, though. I think we're about to take questions, but I want to ask, like, where does Bird Box come from, right? Because I mean, the idea of seeing these things and having to be blindfolded so you don't basically kill yourself, and it also affects dogs, you bastard. Where does this come from? Like, what is that? That's some twisted business.
So it came from two places. I'm a bit in my own like writing life, I'm a bit of an assembly line. And it was just the next idea at the time was a blindfolded woman and two kids. I didn't even know if they were hers, in a rowboat, navigating a river. That's all I knew. I had like a snapshot of these three in a river, in a rowboat, and that was it. And I'm starting to write, I'm like, oh, this feels good. Whatever this is feels scary. I got these three, I don't know. And then by page 2, I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. Why are they wearing blindfolds? And and I had a teacher when I was like 13 or so that had told the class that a man might go mad if he were to contemplate or try to, that's the key word, attempt to contemplate infinity. And I remember the rest of the class was like, oh, yeah, and I'm just like, wait, what do you mean? So wait, hold on. So I could go crazy if I just try to think of where space ends. Like not reaching it, but just thinking about it could drive me mad, And he's like, well, yeah, if you spent all your time, and then I was just like starting to lose my mind. And I remember that night, like, don't think about where space ends. Don't think about where time begins. Like, come on, don't.
No sleep, never sleep.
My mom was getting ready for dinner. My brothers, I remember them like walking from bedroom to bedroom, and I'm like sitting in the hall, like, come on, no, don't think about where space ends. And then years later, I'm sitting down and I'm like, what are they fleeing? And it was like, oh, right, they can't look at something that would drive them. They can't look at infinity. And I had this image of like, or this idea. So you could avoid infinity, Josh, but what if infinity like actually knocked at your front door? So like you knock at the door, you open it, and infinity is standing at your front door. And now you have no choice but to try to comprehend it because you're trying to make sense of what's standing in your porch. And I was like, that's it. And then the book just like boom exploded. I wrote it in 26 days, 4,300 words a day. Again, it was twice as long because of that thread that has died twice now. And it was, man, Chuck, it was one of the most gorgeous artistic experiences of my life, man. I rewrote it to like, a million, like almost every word of it. But that rough draft was as glorious. Like, you finish your writing for the day, you do your stuff, and by the time you went to bed, you knew what you were going to write the next morning again.
Isn't that beautiful?
Like 26 straight days. That's primo experience.
That's the best.
So you want to answer questions?
Yeah. Is that time? Are we doing it?
Well, we're doing it.
All right. The mysterious.
I'm trying to get my video. I'm so sorry, everyone, for the technical issues we're having tonight.
I blame coronavirus.
Let's do that. I blame Corona too. It's the Rona. All right, so I'm working on my video, but while I do that, I'll start with the first question from Sarah in our chat box, and it's for Chuck. Since you wrote Wanderers, like a few seasons of a TV show, and now it might become one, do you have any actors that you would love to play particular characters?
Oh, that's good. Not mostly, but I did sort of dream cast in my head Benji, who initially was Chiwetel Ejiofor, and then Sadie was Gugu Mbatha-Raw. But then I've also kind of had like Chidi from The Good Place as him, or recently I've seen John Boyega do all his like he's in intense protest mode, and I'm like, oh man, he works. Like I thought he was a little young in Star Wars, but he's aging up. So yeah, there's a lot of great actors that could fill those roles. So I'm excited to see if it ever happens, which it won't because they never do. but if it does, that'd be cool.
That'd be awesome if you got like Mick Jagger to play Pete Corley.
Oh my God, could you imagine? I know. Yeah, you need like an aging rock star.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Sold.
And that
I'll
the same sort of thing. Is there any hope or any talk of Wanderers being made into a movie?
No, they wanted to. That was initially the pitch. Dan Trachtenberg was pretty hot for the book, and he was like, "Well, I want to do it as a movie," but then he one day like just contacted me. He's like, "I was wrong. It can't be a movie. I don't know what I was thinking. I tried. It's not that." So it's kind of always been you.
And Chuck and Josh, if you could have dinner with any writer, alive or dead, who would it be?
Ooh, Josh, go ahead.
Chuck, no, I don't know.
Yeah. I would have dinner with Josh. We would not be on this screen.
Man, okay, I just read Beloved, and I would love to have met Toni Morrison, man.
Yeah.
Like
I did.
Asking about which one of my writer friends had met her. And
yeah,
I was surprised. A bunch had.
She's amazing.
Did you meet her?
I did. She came to my college, and because I was a member of like this little class, we got extra time to like sit with her in a parlor. It was just like 6 of us and pick her brain. It was astonishing. It was like really a revelatory moment.
There's so many, and Trisha actually. Well, another writer suggested Beloved, but then Trisha gave me the nudge. She wrote me something like, "You really should read this," and it just destroyed me, man. I was like, "This is so." As someone wrote online, she didn't write that, she channeled it. I mean, it's like it's so elevated. So, but then I ordered Song of Solomon, and I haven't read that, but that's in the mail.
Good, so very good.
Yeah, I just finished Beloved 2 days ago, but I would have dinner with Toni Morrison if I was gonna pick one alive or dead.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that. Man, we were talking about Joe Lansdale. I would totally want to hang with Joe. That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, Josh, will Carpenter's Farm ever make it into print, or will it only be an online read?
Wait, shoot. It's super broken up. You're talking. Hold on. Do I sound regular to you right now, guys?
Yeah, you're breaking up on us, Josh. Josh is a robot now.
Yeah, like I can't understand. Like Chuck, maybe we should drop me out and put me in.
I'm sorry?
I think he wants to be kicked out and then brought back in.
Okay. I'm actually going to try and get your mic and bring it back. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
No?
I can hear you.
Here you go.
We're doing great. Okay.
I'm going to drop out.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Let me back.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Oh, my goodness gracious. Technology.
Hello. Okay.
All right, let me invite him back in.
Technology's fun. It's fun.
And oh, Randy, I work in tech support. This is nothing. Well, thank you.
Randy knows the scoop.
Randy knows what's going on. There he is.
Hello.
Hello. All right. Okay, another question. Josh, any chance you might revisit Goblin and maybe make it become like a Castle Rock or a Derry?
Man, I would love to write Goblin 2. I also love the idea of just calling it 2. Goblin 2. Yeah, that book is, man, that book's infinite. I mean, all it is it's the city of Goblin, and the book is just 6 characters, 6 sort of celebrated characters in town, or at least big personalities in the course of one night. So, but it's a full-on town, maybe the size of like Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so, I mean, it's literally endless if I wanted to add to it. There's no conclusion. I mean, there are conclusions for those 6 characters, kind of, but it could really go on forever. So to answer that question, yes, I would love to. And my manager Ryan and I are, and others are developing an right now for TV, and so that could bring it into a whole different direction and whatever. But I do fantasize about writing Goblin 2 because that's not even a sequel. It's really not. That would literally be adding episodes to like a TV show if I was hosting. So the answer is yes, for sure. And thank you for asking.
Okay, let's see. Chuck, you said a turning point in your writing was the screenwriting lab that you did. Can you talk about the screenplay that that got you to that lab?
Oh yeah, the screenplay that got me there. I had a weird journey to being a writer. I was trying to write my book Blackbirds for like years, and I was like, you ever walk into a room where you don't know why you're in the room? That was me writing that book. I just didn't know. I'd get like 75% through it, and then I would wander away. And so I did what any novelist would do in that situation, which was I entered a screenwriting contest and won somehow. So there's a screenwriter named Steven Susko who grew up here around in our area in Doylestown. And so I won like a year-long mentorship with him. And through that mentorship, not only did I kind of learn how to write Blackbirds, but I got hooked up with another excellent writer, a local guy, Lance Weiler, who made The Last Broadcast and Head Trauma, some indie films in the area. And he and I worked together on and off with screen stuff. And so that we wrote a script called Him, Hope is Missing. And it was a sort of a post-apocalyptic, only the kids are left behind and there's monsters hunting them kind of film. In that, we got a producer, Ted Hope, who's a great, wonderful producer and now works, I think, at Amazon. And he submitted our script to Sundance. And it was a wonderful experience being sort of up in the mountains and learning from, honestly, astonishingly accomplished and funny and amazing creative screenwriters. So it was really formative to both how I understand outlining and storytelling, but it was also just a kind of a cool experience to be around other creative people.
Okay. And one more for Chuck. What made you decide on already Colorado for the destination for your group of wanderers? It seems like a lovely place.
Oh, when my father passed away in his later years, he had a house in Colorado, in western Colorado, Colburn. And for a very short amount of time, we owned property out there. So I had to visit Colorado a number of times. And it's just an astonishing state, both in its beauty and its people. And it's weird, like in the best way weird. Like everybody's a little bit kind of like, you can't tell me what to do, but also we're really, we're open-minded and kind of wacky people. And so I really wanted to just set some pieces there. And I was researching into the book, Wanderers, and I sort of found a number of locations that were a good place to end the world. And the Colorado Ouray won out.
And this has never happened. I have a question. I have a question about my music tattoo here. So it's the first few soprano notes of Lacrimosa from the Requiem. And I got this tattoo. I had a spine fusion that kind of messed with my voice. I used to sing a little bit, so I wanted to. It's, getting a neck tattoo like in your late 30s is #1 a fantastic idea if you want to look really professional. But I just wanted to get that as just a little reminder of what I am able to do and was able to do. So that's the tattoo. Back to our author. Josh, what's the design on your mug? They see a mug.
On my mug. Richmond, Virginia. Where Allison and I went and had like the time of our lives being sort of like guests at a university for a week. We were there for a week. It was crazy. We stayed in this like haunted place and all this, and we got this mug. I wanted to ask Chuck, can you hear me? You guys can hear me fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say that the director of The Last Broadcast?
Yeah. Lance?
Are you talking about the found footage movie?
Yeah.
The Jersey Devil?
Yeah, kind of preceded Blair Witch. He's my writing partner. Yeah.
I didn't really.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah, I had no idea. I freaking love that movie, and I'm talking.
It's so good. So great. So weird.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
that's so cool. Please, wow, that really excited me. I kind of want to watch it like right now.
Yeah, right. If you can get it.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is it for our questions.
We
We
did it.
made it through
We did
somehow.
it.
Thank you both for being with me and
Thank
bearing
you.
with the audio issues. Everybody, I would like to encourage you to pre-order Mallory, the
Do it.
sequel to Bird Box. You can click the Buy the Books Here button on your screen to pre-order that from the Doylestown Bookshop.
Thank
And also take a look at Bird Box if you haven't read it yet, and Wanderers by Chuck Wendig. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. This video will be available on YouTube in about an hour or so if you want to see this again.
Again and again. Just watch it.
Again. All right, everyone, take care. Thanks for tuning in.
Stay safe.
Bye.